Good morning, everyone. I'm Howard Greenberg. As Yvonne said, I'm one of the board members and the founder of Bosco's Fund. Fortunately, she put me before the two professional, polished speakers, so I don't have to follow their act. And I didn't realize, as Yvonne said, that what frequently happens is when you lose a beloved pet, you begin a fund. So my wife and I, Joanne, sitting there, started Bosco's Fund this year. And can you go to the first slide? Oh, yes. Cover slide. And I'm only going to talk about one dog, obviously special dog to me. I'm sure all of you have your own Boscos. And I'm sort of preaching to the choir here, because if you're here, you believe in the mission, you've supported it. I also want to thank you for supporting the mission and for the donations. Thank you. Tell me if you can't hear me. But I'm going to talk about Bosco, who was our beloved pet, and his legacy of joy, love, and spirit, and why we created Bosco's Fund, what its purpose is. And I'll tell you a little bit about Bosco, too, but I've really tried to keep that short. So we'll go. Thank you. So this is one of my favorite sayings: dogs are not our whole life, but they make our lives whole. And it gives some of the reasons: the companionship, the joy, the unconditional love, not just that the animal brings to you, but that the animal brings out in you for your beloved pet. And we humans do have jobs, we have friends, we have families. From the perspective of the pet, they sort of depend on you, and you are their life. It's also not our only priority, but it brings out a special completeness. At least I found that, and I imagine a lot of you have as well. And the profound emotional bond and benefit to the pet owner in terms of physical, mental, and emotional well-being. So I try to keep it to three things: the impact of dog, and I don't want to pay short service to cats, I'm talking about a dog, but pet ownership, why we created the Bosco Fund, and then a little bit about Bosco and us. And our acronym, as I'll explain, is HOJOBO. And if you can't discern that, it's Howard, Joanne, and Bosco. That's HOJOBO. Next slide. So dog or pet ownership, how it impacts well-being of humans. So I kind of separate it into three different phases. For children and adolescents, it teaches responsibility, care for another, and it provides a bonding experience in those formative years when sometimes relationships with boyfriends and girlfriends may not go quite as wanted. And especially these days in the virtual world with social media, a dog's demands and love is anything but virtual. For adults, early adulthood, they provide companionship, love, and acceptance, desire, and forgiveness. Again, boyfriends and girlfriends do not always do that. So how many times has your dog not been excited to see you and been eager to play with you and enjoy life? They also demonstrate living in the moment, which, at least me, for being trained as an engineer and physician, we're thinking about the past and planning the future. But dogs bring out the joy of life and living in the present. And you could revel how they love life. For older folks, which I'm getting to be or am there, and some of you might be, they provide companionship, whether or not you have attentive kids, grandkids, spouse, significant other. They provide mental health by having another being to care about and interact with. And they also provide cardiovascular health with the daily walks and the activities. And there are peer-reviewed studies that support that. One of my colleagues, a FDA official, says, "In God we trust, but all others bring data." So there's actually good scientific data that dogs do provide benefits physically and mentally for older populations. I have some of those references if you want them. So why the Bosco Fund? Well, some data points. In Bucks County, there's over 27,000 dog licenses each year. 1/4 or more of those dogs do not get annual physicals, blood work, vaccinations, whether it's due to financial challenges or lack of consciousness. So part of the Bosco Fund's mission is to try to address that, at least those who have financial challenges, and to work with partners, veterinarians, and clinics, so that if they are challenged financially, we could assist with that, just like Boris and Natasha assists with more acute care. And, I'm sorry, go back. So vets stress the need for this preventive care, and even in human health now, there's more of an issue with extending health span, not just lifespan, and that's one of the missions of Bosco's Fund. Next. Okay, so this is what we came up with. I want to thank Yvonne and Karen and others talking to the different clinics, and we came up with a panel of vaccination tests, blood tests, and other tests for dogs and cats, and this is what we're at least initially going with as part of the preventive veterinary care regimen and what your support is going towards. So this is the part where I want to tell you a little bit about Bosco and us, or again, Hojo Bo. As Yvonne talked about, there were like 3 phases of our relationship. And I kind of classify these as the anxious wild child, the calmer and joyful, and the real best friends forever phase. And then a little bit of why we connected with Bosco so well. So this was the anxious wild child phase, or Hojo Bo. And as you can see, a little bit of story. Bosco was picked up by the Philadelphia police in a not so good part of Philadelphia in about 2010. Was probably conceived in 2009. My dad passed away in 2008, so for those who are spiritual like that, you could think that my dad's spirit was put into Bosco when he was born, and that's why Bosco and I connected so well. We'll get to that a little bit later. Anyway, those first 5 years, although these pictures don't show it, he was a real wild child. He was a terror of the neighborhood. He bit several people, mostly from fear or anxiety, but he was what I call the ever-ready bunny. He would be jumping 2 and 3 times his height repeatedly. He would walk for hours, run all day, jump on top of tables and chairs, chew on pens and eyeglasses. I lost 2 pairs of eyeglasses the first month. He would bark at anyone who came to the house or anyone who approached the backyard. And then we adopted the Hojo Bo moniker for our holiday cards and greetings. The next 5 years, I call the calmer and joyful period. And he became more accepting of visitors, made friends with family. The neighbors got to know his name more than my name and my wife's name. We had aunts and uncles who walked with us, sometimes coming from miles away for what we called Long Walk Sunday of 1 to 2 hours around the neighborhood. He acquired outdoor skills of running down tennis balls that were shot out of a cannon. And then he also was very good catching the Frisbee in midair, flipping around, come crashing to the ground, and then come running back in that picture, as you could see, with the Frisbee, put it down, and have me toss it again. And he could do that. He trained me well for a number of things, treats and a lot of things. Indoors, he also acquired skills. He loved to, I would roll the ball to him, he would catch it with his paws, and then use his nose to push it back to me. And he would do this as long as I could stand it. He would love that. And then one other thing that he liked to do was carry his favorite pet, stuffed pet toys. And if Joanna and I were out, he'd come back running to the door, greeting us with the pet, like wagging it in front of us. But there was also a different side of him. When he got tired of a pet, and you can see in the lower left there, he would meticulously nibble the seam of the pet and dissect out all of the stuffing, put that in one part, and then go for the squeaky toy and put that in another part, and then he'd take the carcass of the toy and put it in a third part. So if we were out for a while and he got bored, we'd come home and we'd see something like this with the toy all torn apart, but in 3 neat packages. He also loved to chew on hard plastic toys and often went to bed with them and relaxed him before he slept. And then he also had a way of, in the bedroom, jumping from the bed to the recliner chair, which is where he slept, back to the floor, under the bed to chew on his toy, and then sometimes cycle around this. And the chair, I guess it's the next picture. The chair, which you can see in the lower left here, although the lighting isn't so great, would cradle him, but he had an odd way of putting his head on the armchair and twisting it. I don't know how he slept that way, but he was comfortable with his head all crooked back and his body cradled by the chair. These pictures are from the pandemic. Most people really disliked the pandemic. I have to admit, I loved it. Parts of it, anyway. We got to be shut in and and closed down. I was fortunately able to work from home. My wife was able to work from home, and I got to spend lots of time with Bosco. So you could see us in the lower there. We're actually watching television. He didn't like sports, but he liked movies. We also cuddled a lot at bed before he got tired of me and then jumped into his chair to sleep. In the morning when he saw me wake up, he would go from the side position to be flat on his back, and he loved to have his underarms and lower limbs scratched, and then I'd kiss his belly, and then he'd be ready to go and jump off the chair. And of course, he loved his walks. And there are lots of antics I could think about. He used to tangle with the large neighborhood dogs, but he was smart enough to go running under the car so they couldn't get to him. And he also once flipped a rabbit that he saw hiding, which I didn't really like, and there's a whole story about that. But from then on, I had to be careful what he was going after. He chased after squirrels incessantly, and the mailman was very good to him, giving him treats. So whenever he saw the mailman, he would run with me trailing behind on the leash to catch up to the mailman to get a treat. So these are all little anecdotes. So why we created Bosco's Fund, you could tell I was entertained, enthralled, and envious of his joy of life, something that the engineer mentality struggles with. And it brought out in me the unconditional love that was tough in this world. And not only his love, but my love for him. So I want to honor his life for showing me how to love life. He's a tough act to follow, but I try to honor the promises I gave to him. And mostly it's to support these preventative wellness services to families that really need it, that could not afford it. And that's really, I think, why we're all here and why we thank you for your support. Next slide. I know you each have your own Bosco or other pet, and that's the beauty of it and why we thank you. Again, preaching to the choir here, but we need to get this message out. Your funding helps get the message out. These people help get the message out, and we'll hear from them shortly. But why, on a more personal sense, why I connected with Bosco. He came into my life as my dad exited. We both had anxious childhoods and grew into a calmer adulthood, although my wife may debate whether I'm calm. We enjoyed play together and quietness, whether it's with the Frisbee or watching movies. He also showed me, which I'm still struggling with, living in the present and not the past and not the future. And he showed me joy, love, and spirit and brought out that unconditional love. And so I thank you for your support. I thank you for coming here. It's a beautiful day. I thank you for your attention to Yvonne and our famous, illustrious, polished, professional guest speakers to follow me. And thank you.